Okay, I'm recording myself here.
Okay.
Thank you, Milton EDC, and I appreciate the opportunity and the platform. Thank you, business owners who've joined us to talk about leadership, inclusive leadership, which is, I'm very passionate about that topic, and I think it's essential if you want to build and grow a strong business community that you have inclusive leaders. So we have a short time together, but we're going to stay focused on the objectives. And the objectives is to understand the importance of inclusive leadership, what is an inclusive leader, and then the strategies for integrating that into your business model, okay? Building inclusive leaders. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I grew up in Westford, Vermont, and I wasn't a great student. I wasn't focused. I wasn't one of those kids that says, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a mom or an astronaut, definitely not a singer. I was sort of a tomboy. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. They called it a tomboy when you like boy toys. I played with the Matchbox cars, helped my brother build the rafts in the pond. I climbed trees, built tree houses, worked on a dairy farm. I enjoyed driving the tractor. In high school, I took the auto mechanics class when my friends were taking the easy cooking class, and I wasn't a very focused student. Now, as a mom and a Mima, I told my kids and tell my grandkids, read, take everything you can in school, find out what you're passionate about, what you like, and align that with what you're going to do for work, because we all have to work, we all have to earn a living. So if we can find what our gift is and align that with what we have to do for a living, it's going to make it so much better. But for myself, I was not focused. It's kind of like I said, a rambling tomboy, not doing very good in school. And when it came close to graduation time, I ended up joining the US Army. And back in my day, the popular movie was Smokey and the Bandit. I remember Jerry Reed, Burt Reynolds, and Sally Field. And I thought that driving a tractor trailer across country with a dog as a co-pilot and a CB radio would be a great job. So when the recruiter came to our high school, I said, can they teach me how to drive a big truck? And they're like, yeah, sure. So I signed the dotted line. So I'm 18 years old. My mom brings me down to Burlington to the Greyhound bus station on December 27th, 1981. And I step onto that bus, not knowing what the night was gonna look like. Had my little backpack. And today I think about that 18-year-old, that fearless 18-year-old that would do that, and what it took for me to do that. And I was very unconscious of all the work that had been done for me to step into that journey. I did not know about the suffragettes that fought for me to have the right to vote or even join the military. I just stepped into it, And I think about that journey, and I stand before you, I'm going to be 62 next month, and I feel like I'm a successful person, and I've had a very good career. I joined the Army, and I'll tell you, I did have some fun being a truck driver for 3 years. I definitely acclimated to the boy culture. I was beer drinking truck driver at Aberdeen Proving Ground, but after my 3-year tour, and I wasn't the most disciplined soldier, but after my 3-year tour, I missed Vermont, I missed my family, so I came home. And I thought I'd join the National Guard. I heard about the National Guard. I was like, why didn't I hear about this before I joined the active duty? But I went on to Camp Johnson, the base, and I thought, on prior service, I'll join the Guard. And the recruiter said, well, you don't want to be a truck driver. We'll put you in the headquarters company. You can be an admin person. So I was like, okay. So I changed my identity. Instead of a truck driving girl, I was in administration. And so I began my career in the Human Resources Office. Now, I didn't just drill 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. I worked full time. So I was driving through the gates of Camp Johnson, and I worked in HR. And we know as business people that HR is your recruiting, it's your retention, it's your staffing, your employee benefits, human relations. And I worked in a lot of the different departments. And until I was 40 years old. When I was 40 years old, after 22 years in the military, I was the Adjutant General's Equal Opportunity and Diversity Manager. And that's when I found my passion. That's when I said, this is what I was meant to do. And I took the job very, very seriously. And I think it became personal for me because I had joined the military, acclimated to the culture, and I experienced sexual assault and sexual harassment from the get-go. But I did what you did back then. You rub some dirt in it, put it in your backpack, trudge on. You survive. And I certainly had success and I had good times, but I was carrying a lot of pain that I endured. And so when I became the manager and had clients come to me seeking a resolution to the issues that they were dealing with, and I was like, wow, this stuff's still going on. I'm 40 years old and this was happening for me at 18. I took it very personal to solve the problem for the general in this job. And that was our cultural challenge in the military. Predominantly male, 80% male, and often in higher ranking positions, the woman is the anomaly in the room. And so that was our cultural challenge. Every business is going to have different cultural challenge that they face. But I think about my career, I think about from getting on that bus, that Greyhound bus at 18, to when I retired in 2019, what helped me propel to be successful was inclusive leaders. Inclusive leaders who saw me, who recognized me, who connected with me, who motivated me, coached me, endured me. And there was many times you wanted to quit. And about a year before I retired, a mentor of mine who was in the diversity business said, you gotta write a book about that arc of joining the military as a truck driver, acclimating to the culture, doing all that, and then ending up the camp feminist. And that wasn't like a compliment, being the camp feminist. I was very passionate about gender equality because I saw in my camp a lot of the bias, the gender bias. And when my mentor said, you're gonna write a book, I knew from the beginning that I was gonna call it Life at Camp. And not just because it was Camp Johnson, but camp is kind of, we're all born into a generation, we're born into a family, an economic status, our ethnicity, our race, we're born into that. And as we grow up and become adults, many of us, some have more opportunities than others, to choose where we want to be, where we want to camp out. So let's just say you're born in Burlington and you go to the University of Vermont, you want to be a surgeon or doctor. So you're going to the UVM, you do your internship at the medical center and you become a surgeon. That's your camp. UVM is your camp. You know what the successful people are doing, and you know what the people that are leaving and why they're leaving. You know the culture. And my camp was Camp Johnson. My camp was the National Guard. And so when I think again about how I survived it all, and that's why I chose to write the book, I wrote the book. It's called Life at Camp, Combating the Sexism We Tolerate, and Why the Military Should Take the Lead. Because in my camp, I saw how sexism was impacting opportunities for people to have great success. And I felt like there could be a solution to that. So I detail it in a very big book. I talk too much and I write too much, but I detail what I saw was the problem statement and the solution. So again, going back to the inclusive leaders, I want you to think about your journey, where you have worked, and on the activity handout I have in front of you, activity 1 asks you to identify your best leader ever. And I'd like you to find a partner, turn to somebody and let's pair off and just spend a few minutes, and I'd like you to share your best leader ever story. And I'm not gonna have you turn in these papers so you can write nothing or write a lot, but I'd love you to have a little talk back and forth, share your best leader ever and what the attributes were of the best leader ever story, and then we'll come together and talk about those. So let's take 5 minutes to do that. Thank you.